I've known this man, I think since I moved to Los Angeles, I think 25 years ago. At least I've known of him. And then I met him. I mean, he is the one man, the one producer to go to produce your shows. If you're going to do a cabaret, a concert, a one-person show, I always heard the name Clifford Bell. And as a 30-year veteran of the Los Angeles nightclub scene, he is a singer, he is a producer, Mr. Clifford Bell.
Woohoo! Hey, David.
Hey, Clifford, how are you?
I'm enjoying your long hair.
Oh, thank you. Ah!
It's nice.
It's quarantine COVID hair. But I am getting my shot this month, my first one. So after I get my second one, I'm gonna snip.
All right.
Yeah. And how have you been doing?
Do you remember where we met? Where we actually met? I remember it like it was yesterday.
Wasn't that at the my 50?
We met at Michael Orland's house. We met at Michael Orland's house in his living room in North Hollywood. And now I believe you were with Steven Brimberg. Does that make sense? Or were you friends with Steven Brimberg?
I remember that. Were you doing Steven's show?
No, I was with Michael. I used to work with Michael all the time.
Oh, got it.
And I just happened to be there working on something, and you guys came by, and I had heard of both of you, so we met, and all these many years later, we're still friends. There you have it.
You know, and I had heard about you from, within the first year I got to LA, I went to, somebody said, you have to go to Karen Morrow's class. So I went to Karen Morrow, before I got to Karen Morrow, I went to the Cinegrill. And when I was there, I heard several names. Karen Morrow, you have to go to her class. And the other name I heard was Clifford Bell. In fact, that was probably your night you were organizing.
Perhaps. One never knows.
But then we officially met at I love that. These memories just pop back into my my head. Now, what is this? Lawrence? You're Lawrence of
Cabarabia. Many years ago, somebody said to me, "Why, you're just a regular Lawrence of Cabarabia." And I thought it was so funny, it just sort of stuck. And so I call my business endeavors, I call it Cabarabia.
Wow. I love that. So what was the first club that you started at? I mean, I know you've worked at all of them, the Cinegrill at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, the M Bar, the Catalina Jazz Club.
Oh yeah, I mean, I and even before that, I've been doing clubs for years and years. I went to college in San Diego and did clubs in the nightclub world down in San Diego back 100 years ago. And I guess the first place I ever played in Los Angeles was the Backlot, Studio One Backlot, which at the time was a very, very big deal. At the time, that was like the most prestigious club in the city. Yeah. And they had a very popular open mic that was put together by Phyllis Teitler, who is Jane Oliver's sister, as I imagine you probably know.
Well, yeah.
And that open mic, it was audition only. It was very hard to get into. It wasn't like just a free for all where everybody got up. You had to audition and be invited to do it. But it was Roseanne, Rosie O'Donnell, Brian Lane Green, Sam Harris. I mean, it was like people like that, all pre-fame, doing open mic, and I was one of them.
Oh, how fun that is!
Yeah.
And of course now they're coming out with a documentary about it.
Yes. Mark Saltarelli is the documentarian, our mutual friend,
Oh yeah.
and it's produced by Lloyd Coleman, Gary Steinberg, who were two of the original producers at the Backlot, and Chris Isaacson, who's one of the major forces in the nightclub world nowadays. And pretty much the four of them put together an event that was called Back to the Backlot and filmed it. And then now a documentary is being shaped around both the live event and then the history of. And it's fascinating because it talks about, first of all, the paradise that it once was in the mid 70s, where it was, party central. And then as the page turned and it became the world of AIDS, and how life changed over that decade or so. It's really wonderful. I've seen it's about 90% finished, and Mark shows me cuts every now and again, and it's so moving. You just cry your eyes out through it.
Okay, guys, used to be paradise.
It was an explosive, a complete immersion.
I never thought there would be a place for me to be myself.
Anybody who tells you that they were there in the 70s and remembers it wasn't there.
People were doing coke on the dance floor. They had little bottles.
First it was fun, then it was fun with problems, and then it was just problems.
Most of the guys were shirtless. When you crossed over into the threshold of the dance floor, was a kind of alternative reality.
It was really my entrance into life. I was wide-eyed. It was Hollywood.
Studio One was always about the Backlot. It was the major place to be.
It was gay and straight audience, so a lot of them came in and said, oh, let's just go and have a dance in the disco.
The show that we've been doing in New York, we did it here at the Backlot. Something's going to happen when you played here.
Alan Carr was in the Backlot all the time. Lucille Ball, Tab Hunter, Robert Wagner, Natalie Wood.
They're talking about demolishing the whole thing.
All these years.
As soon as it went public, we started to hear from folks. What do you mean you're tearing it down?
They're going to destroy the building. It's going to be history. They won't be around anymore.
In the 70s, we were behind closed doors, no windows, dark alleys, a secret society. I'm ready for a bottle to come at us any second now. But that doesn't happen anymore.
Star Search would call us up and say, could you try putting this person in your show tonight?
And this big dream was all just starting to fizzle.
There are three things that change everything: plague, famine, or war. We were experiencing plague.
He used to always say to me, don't tell me there's not a war on.
The government wasn't going to do anything about it. Those of us who were in show business said we can put on a show. She stepped in and organized this first benefit, and people were afraid to come.
People in the business saying, don't do it, it's career suicide. It was fear. Our family received threats. They made the decision to bring me with them. If something's going to happen, the place is going to get blown up, at least we're all there together.
We were running from hospital to funeral to hospital.
I see that my drug use was in direct line with people dying and getting sick.
I see all of these people that I used to dance with at the clubs who are now deceased. This is 30 years later, and I still get very emotional about it.
This night had to happen.
You cannot overstate the historical impact of this building. If these walls could talk.
West Hollywood lost 10,000 people, and their spirits are still here because this was the place where they were happiest. God bless Studio One forever.
I love as I get more mature in age, my favorite films are now documentaries.
Yeah, I watched that Jane Fonda in 5 acts last night. Have you seen that?
No, that sounds.
Oh, it's so great. It's so great. I mean, what a life, Jesus.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Especially after her getting the Golden Globe, that's a perfect thing to watch. So, do you like directing or producing better? And for those who are watching, especially the Performing Arts Studio West, what is the difference in cabaret and concerts and nightclubs? between directing and producing?
Well, I think if I could only do one, I think my favorite thing is to be a director, because essentially you are responsible for the vision. It's your vision. Because of how reality works, I pretty much have become a producer, because being a producer is the only way that you can really control that you get your vision. You have to in some way be responsible for, or able to get the money together and all that stuff to do things the way you want to do them.
Yeah.
So mostly I produce everything I direct. Occasionally I'm hired just as just a director. Occasionally I'm hired as just a producer, but I like to do both together because it gives me more freedom to actually do it what I want, the way I want.
Mm. Well,
as you know, when you put shows together, you want to make it be how you want it to be.
Exactly. And but here's the thing with me, and I'm sure it's with you sometimes too, because I don't think, especially when we were out of quarantine, you ever stopped. You were constantly working.
Yes.
And I remember I haven't produced that many shows and benefits. I think maybe 3 in my whole lifetime, where you probably, I don't know if you could count how many, hundreds.
You're right. Yeah, I am prolific. If nothing else, I am prolific.
It's it's amazing. And I just remember, the last show that I did on 2019 was the benefit for the Meet the Biz program, performing, for Performing Arts Studio West at the Catalina. And I mentioned it to you, and you said, well, do you need help? And I went, oh, help. I can work with people, because I get so wrapped up in trying to do everything myself. And I said, collaboration, which is so important.
Well, it really does. It does take a team, particularly on those days where, you have 20 people coming in to each take their moment in the sun. There's a lot of little things that need to be handled, and one person's attention can't function you need to be able to delegate somebody to be watching this and somebody to be watching that. And you had put together such a wonderful program. Your performers were amazing. You had such a high level of talent. They just amazing singers, and your performers with disabilities were all unbelievable as well. And so I kind of played traffic cop for you and kept the thing running.
I would have lost my butt, which you saved my so-called ass.
It's harder than it looks.
It's what?
It's harder than it looks to put those kind of shows together.
Yeah, it was. Thank you for that evening, because you did save. More than save me, you made everything polished.
Yeah, it was a really, really special night. It was really great.
I'm going to throw out a name. There's a few names I said, God, I want to just throw out the name to him. And sometimes they do it, but this time I think I have 2 or 3. Katie Segal.
Yes, I love Katie Segal. So proud of her with her new TV series.
Right. And you work with her, you produce her shows.
Yeah, Katie, as I'm sure many people know, is a phenomenal singer. She's just one of the best singers ever. She has the most beautiful voice. And in fact, she began her career as like a very, very prestigious backup singer. She was, singing background for like Etta James and Kiss and Bette Midler and Tanya Tucker, and before she hit it as Peg Bundy, she was a very, very sought after musician. And I've actually known Katie for a long time. I met her about 30 years ago, probably in passing, but about maybe 10 years ago now, a friend of ours suggested me to help Katie produce her band. She wanted to start performing with her band again. This was a period of time where it was after the John Ritter show was over. John Ritter had passed, which was very sad. And I guess Katie had done Lost, maybe. You know, she's always very active on TV, but she hadn't been doing much music since she wanted to put her band back together. So with Katie, we started at Catalina's, but then she thought that was too fancy for her because she's really a rock and roll girl. She was like, I can't play someplace where they have linens on the table. So we went looking around, and we started to play M Bar, which was a really cool little club in Hollywood. And she loved M Bar, and we did M Bar for, I don't know, we probably did it for 2 or 3 years every once in a while, and always sold out. And then we went on tour a couple times. We played a few different cities. It was absolutely loved her. She's the sweetest, greatest lady ever.
Well, I look forward to, after we all get out of quarantine, for her next show. I bet it's, you know.
And she's got this new TV series coming on called Rebel. And she looks
saw-
like a gazillion bucks in it. My God, she looks so amazing.
And the co-stars and everything, it looks like something you want to watch.
Yeah.
Now, beside doing shows, you produce CDs. What Lee Lessig and
I produce what?
CDs.
What'd you just say?
CDs.
I do produce CDs. Yeah, I've produced a lot of CDs.
For like Lee Lessig.
I was a you know, like project coordinator or something like that. The actual producing credit was Michael Orland, but I was a third of the team at the time. Lee and Michael, and his first album.
Got it.
Yeah, beautiful album.
Gorgeous album.
Beautiful singer.
And Eileen Barnett, did you?
I produced Eileen Barnett's live album, and it's a live album of her nightclub act, and to this day, it's one of my favorite nightclub acts I've ever done. I actually was listening to the record just the other night, and it's such a good act. It's so well put together, and John Boswell was the musical director, and he plays so beautifully. So the arrangements were all amazing, and it was autobiographical around her career, and she had she's had an interesting story, and it's very good. If anybody ever sees it, Eileen Barnett live from the Cinegirl, try to get it. It's very good. If you're a cabaret lover.
Of course. And I was reading the list of all the people you have worked with: Billy Barnes, Jason Gray, Maureen McGovern, Mary Jo Monday, Brian Lane Green, Mickey Rooney.
Mickey Rooney, yeah. For a period of time, I used to run the Cinegrill when it was reopened. They redesigned it. And
when they were downstairs.
Downstairs, yeah, Michael Feinstein. And to reopen it, the opening act was to be Mickey Rooney. And so I produced Mickey Rooney's show, and he was so interesting because he didn't want to ever talk about the past. Everybody, of course, wants to ask him about things. He goes, I never talk about the past. I only talk about the future. So he was a funny little guy. He was very intense.
Yeah.
But brilliant. He was a real piece of history. There was a period of time when he was the biggest star in the world.
Right.
In his youth, he was literally the biggest box office star.
Mickey and Judy.
Mickey and Judy, and we got into a conversation about Judy Garland, and he started crying. He said Judy Garland was the most important person in my life. He says I can't even think of her today still without crying. It was very moving to see how deep their relationship was.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing to have the experiences that we have as we go through life. You shoot for what you want, and then you have all this. I just pictured following the Yellow Brick Road. You don't know where it's gonna go.
Exactly.
One other person I wanted to throw out, because I saw Bonnie Franklin. You worked with Bonnie?
Yeah, Bonnie Franklin was sort of the beginning of a new career for me. I'd been around for a while and did a bunch of stuff, but I was just sort of a person in the world trying to get along. And my friend Lara Teeter, I don't know if you know who Lara Teeter is, but he's a Broadway guy of some renowned. he did about 10 Broadway shows. He did Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and Pirates of Penzance. And he was the star of the last big George Abbott musical, On Your Toes. He was Tony nominated as the leading man of On Your Toes. And he was a New York person, but when he moved to LA, a bunch of people called him to put their nightclub acts together. And he called me and said, I don't really know anything about the nightclub medium. I don't really know anything about cabaret per se, and that's sort of your specialty. Will you help me? So we kind of became a little team, and the first thing we did was a review starring Bonnie Franklin and Gary Sandy and Terry Ralston.
Oh,
and a guy named
Terry was my teacher for one semester at San Francisco State.
Yeah, and a guy named Byron Neese. He went as Bud Neese, but his professional name was Byron Neese. And it was an off-Broadway review. And Bonnie's manager at the time, for her manager for a billion years, opened a little coffee house in Studio City called Tonto and Dietz. And it was a little cabaret venue, and all they served was like coffees and desserts. But Bonnie and people like Bonnie, that ilk of that level of performer, celebrities, but with TV credits and stuff, would do their nightclub acts there. And that's how I met Bonnie. Bonnie and I used to have lunch together all the time. She was such a sweet lady. I loved her. And that's actually how I met Eileen Barnett, because Eileen Barnett replaced Terry, because Terry went off to do a gig, I think in Alaska or something like that. She was doing a season in Alaska of book shows. And Eileen took over for her in that musical review, and that's how I became friends with Eileen.
I love it. I love how it's one person to the next to this. It's just how the business is.
Yeah,
you meet people. And
anyway, that was really the beginning for me of what became my career, because Lara and I we put together an act with Debbie Gravitt, formerly Debbie Shapiro Gravitt, who won a Tony for Jerome Robbins Broadway, and Michael McGuire, who won a Tony for Les Miserables. And we put together a concert with them that ran for like 12 years. We played all over the country, and Michael Orland was the musical director of that. And that it was that year of doing things with Lara that, I still that's who I am now. Still, that's still the career I have, and that was 25, 30 years ago, probably.
Do you have a favorite? This is hard to say because you've done so many shows, but I wouldn't say a favorite moment because I know you have so many. But is there a moment that comes to your mind right now that you go, oh, I remember this time?
Oh, I have a lot of those.
I bet.
I have a lot of those. Debbie was always very meaningful to me. Debbie Shapiro Gravitt, Debbie Gravitt. She's such an amazing singer. And I had always considered her kind of a big star before I really knew her very well. And I'll always remember, I'd known her in passing, and I went to the opening night party of Jerome Robbins Broadway when it came here, and she had just won the Tony. And I said to her, I was congratulating her on the Tony. And she said, how are you? I said, congratulations. And she said, how are you doing? And I said, well, I didn't just win a Tony. And she said, not yet. So I always thought that was a very generous thing of her to say. But anyway, so I always admired her from afar. So to actually become the person who flew on planes with her and drove around and sat in hotel rooms and played backstage and stood in the wings when she went out, that was always very meaningful to me. And, and I felt that way about Katie. There were times with Katie, just because she's such an unbelievable singer. She's got such the most gorgeous voice. Yeah. But, I have a lot of magical moments like that.
I bet. Well, and that's why we have to watch your radio show to hear more of those magical moments.
Yes, my podcast. I love that we both have our little podcasts.
It's fun. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while, and the quarantine made me do it. So
yeah,
I'm almost going to hit the 200th show.
Oh my God. Well, you're far more ambitious than I. I did it religiously when I did it for like 7 years,
Yeah.
once a week, religiously. I never missed a week.
Yeah.
And then I kind of ran out of people I was enthusiastic to talk to.
Yeah.
And I probably about a year or so went by where I only did 1 or 2 people. And then with quarantine, I got ambitious again, and the studio that I had been doing it out of closed its studio, so there was no physical space to go to anymore. So I got together with my friend Andrew Apple, who, you know Andrew, don't you? I don't know if you do or not, but he's sort of my go-to tech person, my co-producer, and he has a studio in his house where I film it now, and I revamped it. I did a new opening sequence, and he sort of is my co-producer. So I don't do it on Zoom. I go to his place and do it out of his studio. Although now, because of COVID,
Yeah.
we do it Zoom.
I like that.
Yeah.
I have to bring this up because, of course, you do shows. I mean, like we talked about, you hundreds, but there's one event that you do every year for, I don't know, how many years has it been now for the birthday party?
Last year would have been 22, I think.
22. So celebrating Barbara
Streisand's birthday. Yes.
Why?
When you ask me what my special memories are, my first thought was basically a lot of them are centered around the Barbara party.
Yeah.
But 22, well, I guess this year will be 23 years ago, a bunch of friends, very creative, funny friends. Susie Mosier, I mean, people know these people, Maxine Lapidus, Hillary Carlip, Lee Lessick, John Boswell, a bunch of us, like maybe 10 of us, got together just for our own amusement.
Yeah.
And we had a birthday party for Barbra Streisand in a living room, and everybody picked a Barbra Streisand song and sang it in some different way than it's known to be done. And it was literally, it was the most fun I've ever had in my entire life to date.
Yeah.
And as time passed, I recognized what I had, because it's like everybody, you can't find a person in the world who's in show business who doesn't want to sing a Barbra Streisand song. But in real show business, you're steered away from singing Barbra Streisand songs. Nobody wants to hear you do the way we were. It's like, leave it alone.
Right.
But one day a year, everybody gets to do their Barbra Streisand song. You've done several of them. You did Go to Sleep from On a Clear Day with Justin Charles Cowden in pajamas. They were hilarious. And you did Losing My Mind a year or two ago.
Which I did.
And you lost your mind on stage.
I found it, though. It was right back there.
But, it's been, and, the thing that's really amazing about it is in 22 years, in a show that has, usually about 20 to 25 performers, there have really only been a handful of songs that have been repeated. I mean, Barbara has such an enormous catalog between the movies and the 60 albums and the, everything that she's touched in her career. Literally, there's only been literally a handful of songs that have been sung more than once over the years. And people call me in the show is always in April, and her birthday is April 24th. And people call me in September and say, I want to sing this year. It's like people get started. And it was so heartbreaking because last year when the shutdown started in March, and there was still sort of we'll see in a month, and we'll see in a month. And I had the date of May 3rd was when it was supposed to be. And, I for the last 20 something years, I've done it for charity. And for the last 7 or 8 years, I've done it specifically for Project Angel Food, which is an organization that I'm very committed to and involved with. And that's angelfood.org for anybody that wants to check it out. And so I called Angel Food and I was like, I want to do it so bad. I don't care that they don't want us to. And they said they're a legal organization that they have to answer to government restrictions. and they said, you know, you can't break the rules. You absolutely can't do it. The board's nothing live. At that point, they were saying nothing live till the fall. And,
Right.
you know, now here it is, spring of next year. Although I'll make an announcement here on your podcast. I'll make news. Although I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen yet, but I've been in my mind thinking I'll do it, but I really don't like music on Zoom. I don't think it's very successful. I don't think it really works. I mean, sure, Meryl Streep and Christine Baranski and Audra McDonald were hilarious in Ladies Who Lunch, but 99.9% of the time, I think singing on Zoom just really doesn't work. So I've been thinking I would go to Catalina, because they're doing that some now, and rent Catalinas and have a band and have everybody be far apart and have singers come. And, you know, a few things have done that. So I wouldn't be the first. And you can't have an audience, but you can film it, and you can film it, and you can film it a live performance and put it online.
A perfect idea.
So that was cooking in my brain. And then I'm walking down the street the other day and I run into Manny. Now, I have known Manny, the manager
love
of
Manny,
Catalina's. And I've known Manny for 25 years probably, and I've never run into him on the street. And I ran into Manny and I said, Manny, it's so crazy I ran into you. I'm thinking about doing this. He goes, oh, absolutely, you have to. Call me Monday and we'll work it out. So I haven't committed. I'm not 100% sure, but there's a 90% chance that we're going to do Barbara this year, online live performances.
Oh my God!
To raise money for Catalina, for Project Angel Food.
What you do with this and Project Angel Food, it's something that people look forward to every year. So,
yeah, I mean, the tickets were sold. There were a bunch of tickets sold when I announced it in like March, and the tickets flew off the shelf. The one thing I do want to say, though, when you say what's one of your magical moments, I had invited our friend, I'm sure you know him as well, Alan Rich, the songwriter Alan Rich, who's also a phenomenal singer. And I had just run into him and I said, come do my Barbara party, because he had written a song Barbara recorded, and come to sing that and blah, blah, blah. And one day he calls me right before it was time to do the Barbara show. And he says, are you sitting down? And I said, yes. And he said, well, Barbara has been hearing about the Barbara party and she loves the idea of it. And so she herself can't come this year because she's got a funeral she's going to that day. But she's going to send Richard J. Alexander, who is her longtime co-director, and Jay Landers, who is her longtime record producer. And so Richard J. Alexander and Jay Landers came to the Barbara party, and they brought a letter from Barbara that's, Dear Clifford, blah, 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 love Barbara, so I can die. I have a letter that says, Dear Clifford, love Barbara.
It's like hanging on your wall somewhere.
Yeah. And they stayed for the entire, these shows are ridiculously long. I'm not going to do that again this year, but they're usually like 3 hours long. They stayed the entire time. They stayed after and talked to everybody. I mean, it was really an amazing thing.
It was a magical evening.
And Richard said Barbara would love this. He said to me, he said, I was afraid of what this could be. I was worried that it was going to be stupid or insulting or, not cool. And he said, but you really get her sensibility. I can see what you've done putting this show together. And he said, you get her. Yeah. And I said, yes, I do. Thank you for knowing it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What a joy.
Yeah.
And one of the Barbara parties you sang with the wonderful Kiki Edson.
Yeah, well, that was not at the Barbara party. That was going to be last year's Barbara party, and we sang it at something else to get ready. But I have a clip of it, so I don't know if you're able to show that. But if and when we do the next Barbara party, that I'm hoping to do that with Kiki, because I love that so much, and she's so amazing.
She's incredible, and what a sweetheart.
I had an 11th hour inspiration, and I sent Kiki a text and said, "Is this too gay for you?" And fortunately, she was an ally. So.
Well, I love that the whole Judy Garland summer stock story.
Right.
You actually called me.
Well, I will tell you. Yeah. There was an opportunity that came up about a cool booking, and I called Kiki first thing in the morning one day and said, "If you can go talk to these people this afternoon, you probably get this cool thing." And she said, "Well, I'd love to, but I'm at the tractor store." So, Kiki, for those of you who don't know, Kiki lives on a ranch with many horses.
Right. So this morning we actually had to feed and clean 15 horses before I could be here.
So she's like
today.
a ranch woman when she's not a glamorous chanteuse.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I said that's like Judy Garland in the movie Summer Stock, because it starts with her in overalls riding a tractor, and then actually your part of this song is from that movie.
That's
Did you
crazy.
know that?
Yes.
It's crazy. So anyway.
Anyway, I'm officially gay today.
This is like such a thrill to be able to do this with Kiki. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Here we go.
Forget your troubles, come on, get happy.
I'm here again.
You better chase all your blues
above are clear again.
Sing hallelujah.
So let's sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again.
The sun is shining, come on, get happy.
Shout it now.
The Lord is waiting to take your hand.
Who can doubt it now?
Shout out, come on.
So let's tell the world about it now. Happy days are here again.
We're headed for the river, now your cares will soon be gone.
There'll be no more from now on. From now on.
Forget your troubles, come on.
Days are here again.
You better chase all your blues
above are clear again.
Come on,
So
sing
let's
out.
sing a song
Get happy.
of cheer again. Happy times.
Happy times.
Happy nights.
Happy nights.
Happy days are here Well, that was very happy making.
Thank you, my dear.
Sharing this day.